Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today we have a video courtesy of T. Rogers in the beautiful North Carolina. And as you can see, T. Rogers isn't running any camo, just letting the ship's own natural beauty do the talking, without any confusing patterns atop her. Now, personally, I run the camos because of that small advantage they give me, but I know people who are kind of purists and choose not to, or sometimes people just forget to load the camos. Rogers is playing on Epicenter, which is definitely one of my more liked maps. There's a bunch of people who don't seem to like this map, but I find it to be fairly dynamic. I don't want to say too dynamic, but it's a big enough map. There's kind of enough ways that you can go through the map that battles always seem to evolve a little differently. And it's looking like, just like me, Rogers is going up to the north and heading for all the small islands. I've made my opinion on this pretty clear. I enjoy that part of the map, and even in a battleship, I like going to islands because I can control where torps are coming from, and a bit of smart play and some map reading, figuring out when you're detected and stuff. You're able to pretty much ensure you're never going to get caught out by torpedoes. You might eat one or two occasionally, but it's not like open ocean where you're just going to be spotted perpetually. So it's hard to determine if a destroyer is out there, and all you can really do is maneuver and change your speed to hope they don't hit you. But the luck check torpedoes always seem to just magnetically seek your hull, and I mean, I know I've put countless torpedoes that really had no right hitting enemy ships in open water, but I'm just like, well, I'll fire one at them and one way over here just because, and the just because ones smack right into a ship who is kind of doing the right thing and maneuvering. And I kind of feel bad for this Dunkirk, because a Dunkirk, while she is a very good ship and I like driving her, really isn't a match for the North Carolina. And well, yeah, the Dunkirk's got some support, and well, Rogers doesn't. I really do feel this, if Rogers can get into range of this Dunkirk and really start laying the hate down, he's going to do a lot of damage. But for whatever reason, he chose not to shoot with that first volley and is kind of holding off. So it's important to note that when you see this happening on a map, particularly in a standard battle, where your team is all going one way and the enemy team's pretty clearly all going the other, if you're the one or two odd guys out on your team that are going to be up against the major force of the enemy team, you have one job and one job only. That's to try to be the anchor and just hold your side as long as possible. Give your force time to get around, start flanking, force them to turn around, and then maybe you can do some more damage. But you do have to conserve your hit points if you can't get too aggressive, and you really can't afford to get too mad at your team. Because as you can see, both teams are doing it. And it happens all the time, I find, in standard battles, because you don't have, you know, the kind of three caps to force people to break their attention. When the game starts, one or two ships will start driving one way and everyone else goes, that's where the main force is going, I'm going with them because it's going to be safer. The one downside to that is you definitely lose out on some chances to do big damage because, well, you're never going to end up alone against 10 ships. And if Rogers can conserve his health here, which granted hasn't gone terrifically so far, having taken 11,000 damage, he's going to have the opportunity to really lay the smackdown on some ships as they're forced to push. I can guarantee you, because Rogers' team has recognized it, there's already talk and chat like, these guys need to push. The other team's probably saying the same thing. And while pushing into a destroyer and a battleship is not a pleasant proposition, you're liable to eat a lot of torps and, well, probably gonna eat some pretty heavy gunfire as well. I was just about to say something, and that's when Rogers did it. Personally, the second I see my upper bar ticking down, so how the gray portion works in your health, for those who don't know, so that's the health you're going to recover. Now, there's a maximum and you get to know about how much it is, but a good way of telling is as you're taking damage, if the top end of the gray starts kind of moving down at the same rate as your main health, odds are you've maximized the potential you can heal with that heal. As you can see, after the heal's done, he still has a huge chunk that he can recover. So one of the things to watch is kind of when this part of the gray line starts moving down at about the same rate as the yellow portion or whatever color your hit points are, you've probably saturated that repair party and it's time to burn it. I think Rogers could have gotten it off about 30 seconds earlier there, and he'd just be 30 seconds closer to his next one. And honestly, in battleships, especially when you have Superintendent like he does, Premium or Repair Party, you have to use all 5 to really make your battle count. And when your battle is really going to count is when you have gone through all those repair parties, because you've tanked the damage, you've absorbed it, you've healed, you've been in the fight. He gets a shot off at a side on Atago, and it doesn't do too great, but 5 minutes in he's done 10,000 damage. That's not terrible, and he definitely has time to start laying some meatier hits into targets. And one thing I'll point out, you'll notice Rogers is never really driving in a straight line here. He's always turning. He's playing this really smart. And there's a Citadel, 27,000 damage. Rewards him for a bit of patience, but he eats a big hit from the enemy battleship as he's turning there. But as you can see, that turn was vital as that Atago put torps in the water and he would have been driving straight into them otherwise. So I think it's pretty safe to say this Atago is going to be hopefully dead once Rogers gets around this corner. Although he spots Leander, starts to look at him, and then the Atago keeps turning, brings his guns back, gets them off. He needs this to hit because if that Atago can turn through 90, he was going to get the torps off. I don't think he got him off, and Rogers got his first kill on his... Just a minute after I said he had 10,000, now he's got 50,000. That's how quickly things can change. So just because your game hasn't started off at a super high rate doesn't mean you're not going to get damage in. And I think Rogers is focusing on the right thing here. He's got a Benson behind him, and he can't leave that, so he uses the rear turret on the Benson, and then is going to get the front turrets at this Leander, because that Leander, well, not the most frightening thing, only being a tier 6, will still rack up damage quickly and has torps. You can see he waits for the Leander to be through most of the turn. Unfortunately, not a huge chunk of damage. Hopefully this rear turret does better, and it just really doesn't. The shell's not in line with the Citadel enough, and oh, Rogers, you got lucky there, buddy. I know why you were turning. You saw the Leander, but you knew that Benson was behind you, and pretty much the second a destroyer breaks off like that, it's because they've launched their torpedoes and feel there's no longer a need to chase. Hopefully this rear turret finishes that Leander, because you don't want him around anymore. There he goes. He picks up a second kill. He's up to 74,000 damage, but he has taken a beating. And you kind of expect it. Once again, look where his team is, all south of the cap, 2 enemy ships there. Rogers is alone up here. Now, fortunately, a Farragut's going to be a pretty easy target at sub 4 kilometers with those main guns. Finishes him off, picks up another kill. But at this point, I feel Rogers needs to kind of disengage, use some of that North Carolina speed. Granted, not the fastest ship, but it sure beats a Colorado. And get some room between himself and the enemy. And if you're ever in this situation, you need to do that too. And some good rudder work as he dodges all those torps, threading just between them. And the simple reason to disengage is, as you can see, he can recover a lot of health. His next repair party already looks to be about a full recover, and he's got 2 to go. So if he were to die now, he kind of ends up wasting almost 20,000 hit points between the 2 repair parties. Fortunately, he gets to the map border, but now he's in a better position. It's just the Dunkirk that's really in that kind of kill range. The Tirpitz is 20 kilometers away, so yeah, the Tirpitz can throw shells, but they're not going to be as good, and, well, one reason or another, Dunkirk is not shooting at him. He's looking over where the Leningrad was, and I mean, you can see the Leningrad's playing it smart. He launched his torps in his opening distance behind an island where he's not going to be able to get hit. So Dunkirk's got his guns fixed over there where the destroyer is. Meanwhile, he could be doing damage to Rogers here. But fortunately, it means Rogers is able to recover his hit points. That Dunkirk eats the torps, and well, Rogers is gonna finish him off with this volley, picking up a 4th kill and creeping up on that 100,000 damage mark, which at tier 8 is a respectable amount of damage. It's not an amazing amount, and I'm sure there's people who's done more, but you can't fault Rogers' play here. It was him and a destroyer all alone, and they've managed to hang on. They've eliminated the ships that have tried to push through. You can see the kind of cluster of dead ships from Rogers' guns, and he's still in it. And that's all you can ask about your holding force. So the Tirpitz is going to be a tricky nut, because right now the only thing I'd be thinking about is if I let that Tirpitz close to 6 kilometers, he is putting torps in the water. And with the hit points Rogers has left, those torpedoes pose a big threat. Fortunately, the Tirpitz is sailing dead on, though the turtleback armor tends to keep shells out. Certainly didn't that time. Rogers' aim proving true as he picks up the Kraken up to 119,000 damage, and unfortunately was lit on fire. And you just have to wonder, did that Tirpitz kind of see the shells coming and put torps in the water? We'll never know, because there's the end of the game. Now, I apologize for the quality of this post-battle screen, but it's all I was given. And you can see 392,000 credits, got Dreadnought, Kraken Unleashed, just shy of 120,000 damage and 5 kills for a really good game in probably one of my favorite ships in the American line, simply because it is so different from its predecessor. The Colorado is that old school style, and then you get to the North Carolina, this big, beautiful ship. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, consider subscribing or giving a thumbs up. Both really help keep me motivated. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys tomorrow.